You know that feeling, the one where your mind feels like a stormy sea, thoughts just crashing and pulling you under?
Yes. A tempest within.
Buddhist wisdom, it seems, offers us a way to see this not just as random chaos, but maybe as a signal.
A stirring on the surface, perhaps, indicating a deeper movement. A quiet invitation, even.
Exactly. And there's this idea, the monkey mind. I love that image.
Yes. Restless.
It's like a monkey just swinging endlessly from branch to branch. That's often what our anxious thoughts do, right? Leaping from worry to worry, past regrets tangled up with future fears. Have you ever felt that kind of mental exhaustion?
An expenditure of vital energy, yes. Leaving one feeling depleted rather than nourished. A profound tiredness.
It's really fascinating to think that this isn't some new modern problem.
Indeed.
I mean, over 2,500 years ago, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha, he recognized this exact human experience. He called it dukkha.
Dukkha. A fundamental unease. A friction arising from this very untamed mind.
But the powerful thing is, he didn't just name it, did he? He didn't just point out the suffering. He also showed a path towards finding peace within it.
The recognition of the ailment, you could say, carried within it the blueprint for its remedy. Seeing clearly is the beginning of freedom.
It really did. It makes me think of someone like, well, let's call her Maya. From the outside, you know, she looked like she had it all together. Successful career, nice place, friends. But every night, the moment her head hit the pillow,
The inner storm would gather.
yeah, her mind would just flood with worries. Could I lose my job? Am I really good enough? What if something happens to my family? Just a constant internal barrage.
The outward appearance, so often, it masks an inner landscape of, considerable turmoil.
Absolutely. And she tried a lot of things, you know, the things people suggest. Therapy, journaling.
Like conventional approaches.
Right, even medication. And while they maybe offered moments of relief, that sort of underlying restlessness, it always seemed to creep back in.
A temporary calming of the surface, perhaps, but the deeper currents remained.
Exactly. Then, almost randomly, she's scrolling online and comes across mindfulness meditation. And she was skeptical, understandably.
Caution is natural when facing the unknown, especially after prior efforts yielded limited results.
For sure. But she figured, what have I got to lose?
Sometimes it is in that space of seeking an end to discomfort, truly seeking, that new beginnings emerge, unexpectedly.
It really can be. And honestly, at first, just sitting still for a few minutes, it felt like climbing a mountain for her. Her thoughts seemed even louder, more insistent.
The initial encounter with the busy mind can be quite confronting.
Definitely. But then gradually something started to shift. Instead of getting totally swept away by her thoughts, by the story of them, she started to just notice them, like creating that tiny bit of space between herself and the mental storm.
The observer emerges.
Yeah. And she described this amazing feeling. She called it a glimmer of calm, like the surface of that churning ocean just briefly stilled, revealing this depth, this quiet she didn't even know was there. For anyone listening, have you ever had a moment like that? That unexpected stillness popping up amidst the chaos?
That capacity for observation. It allows the storm to be witnessed, without necessarily being entered. The identification with the tempest begins to lessen, subtly.
That image, it's so helpful, and it makes you think, maybe anxiety isn't just this enemy we need to destroy. Maybe it's more like a messenger, signaling this deeper longing we have for peace, for clarity, maybe for connection. And like you said, learning to understand and maybe gently tame that restless monkey mind, that seems key.
It is central. Understanding the nature of the mind's restlessness is the first step.
So from that Buddhist perspective, what are the roots? Why do our minds get so agitated?
The teachings often point towards the principle of attachment, or perhaps clinging. Yes. Our tendency to grasp, to hold tightly onto specific outcomes we desire, onto the identities we construct for ourselves, the stories we tell about who we are, or onto the expectations we hold about how life should unfold.
Oh, okay.
When reality, as it inevitably does, diverges from these attachments, these fixed ideas. A sense of unease, of suffering, or dukkha arises. Anxiety, in this light, can be seen as a form of resistance to what is, a constant striving for a different future, or holding on to a past that's already gone. Consider perhaps for yourself what expectations or ideals might be sources of subtle tension in your own life right now.
Wow, that really resonates, especially when you think about how it lines up with modern psychology concepts like cognitive distortion, things like catastrophizing, where you instantly jump to the absolute worst case scenario.
Assuming the storm will break the ship.
Exactly. Or black and white thinking, seeing everything as either totally good or utterly terrible, no in between. Those patterns definitely seem to amplify fear and uncertainty, don't they?
The mind, weaving narratives, stories that perpetuate a feeling of disquiet, feeding the very anxiety they arise from.
But here's something that feels really empowering, and it brings us back to that image of the sky and the clouds, or the ocean.
Yes.
Just like clouds drift across the sky without ever changing the sky itself.
The vast, unchanging awareness.
Our anxious thoughts can also just pass through if we learn to observe them, without judgment, without getting all tangled up in their stories. For you, the listener, just remember, the sky is always there, constant, whatever the weather.
You are the spaciousness that contains the clouds. You are not the clouds themselves. This recognition, it is a pivotal shift in perspective, foundational.
Precisely. Anxiety isn't who you are, it's an experience you're having. You are the steady observer in the background. And just recognizing that difference, even intellectually at first, can feel like the very first step towards finding some freedom from that constant worry.
An awareness of a self, a presence that transcends the ever-changing flow of thoughts and feelings.
And that's where meditation comes in, right? It acts like building a bridge.
A bridge between chaos and calm.
Yes. From that inner turmoil to a place of potential stillness, it makes me think of standing firmly on the shore during a really big storm. You can't stop the wind or the waves.
The forces of nature are undeniable.
But you can choose not to get swept away. You can observe the intensity from a place of, well, inner stability.
An anchoring.
Yeah.
An anchoring in the present moment amidst the inevitable turbulence of life. Presence is the anchor.
And one of the most, I guess, fundamental tools in meditation and really central in Buddhist practice is focusing on the breath awareness.
The breath, considered almost sacred, a direct connection to the vitality of life itself.
Yeah.
Ever present.
Yeah. And when you consciously bring your attention to your breathing, it's like giving your mind that anchor you mentioned, something stable to hold on to when the mental waves are crashing. Each inhale feels like an invitation, doesn't it, to come back to now. And each exhale, maybe like a gentle release, letting go of tension, of resistance.
The breath, an ever-present companion, always available, a gateway to inner stillness, patiently waiting.
You know, maybe right now, for everyone listening, we could just take a really brief pause and try that simple exercise. Just 3 slow, deliberate breaths. If you feel comfortable, maybe just close your eyes for a moment.
A gentle invitation.
Okay. Let's just feel the air entering, filling our lungs, maybe noticing the belly rise, and then slowly, gently releasing, letting it all go. Good. Another deep breath in, feeling that expansion, and a full breath out, softening. One more time. Breathing in presence, and a soft, gentle exhale. Letting go. Even just that tiny pause, it can feel like it interrupts the anxiety cycle, can't it? Just for a second.
A momentary stilling, a subtle reminder of the peace that already resides within, always accessible.
Absolutely. But, and this is important, cultivating that stillness, taming that monkey mind, it takes practice, doesn't it? It's not like flicking a switch.
No, it is a cultivation, like tending a garden.
Right. I like the image of training a puppy. At first, its energy is all over the place.
Yes, unfocused.
But with patience, consistency, gentle guidance, it gradually learns, settles.
Gentle persistence. It cultivates gradual transformation. Patience is key.
Exactly. And with regular meditation practice, those anxious thoughts, they'll probably still show up.
Thoughts arise. That is their nature.
But they might not have the same grip on you. You don't find yourself getting swept away quite so easily. Instead, maybe you start to meet them with a bit of curiosity. Maybe even a touch of compassion for the fact that they're there.
Observation, without judgment. This gradually diminishes their intensity, their perceived importance. They become less solid.
And it's so interesting how that very act of observing seems to change them. By bringing awareness to our fears, our worries, we kind of diminish their power.
We stop feeding them energy through resistance or identification.
Right. They lose their hold because we're not fighting them and we're not saying, this is me, this worry is me. It really makes me think of that famous saying, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf.
Yes. Skillful navigation. Learning to ride the inevitable fluctuations of the mind and of life with greater ease.
And thinking back to Maya, her story, after just a few weeks of making daily meditation a real part of her life, she started noticing changes, real shifts.
Hmm.
Her panic attacks, they became less frequent. And when they did happen, she felt like she had, well, some inner resources, some tools to maybe navigate those intense waves a bit more effectively instead of just being overwhelmed.
Developing inner resilience, a capacity to meet difficulty differently.
Yeah. And beyond that, she talked about this new sense of spaciousness in her mind, like more freedom to choose how she responded to challenges rather than just automatically reacting out of fear.
The reactive patterns of the mind, those ingrained habits, they begin to yield to a more thoughtful, responsive presence. Choice enters the equation.
But maybe the most surprising thing for Maya, and it echoes Buddhist teaching so beautifully, was this unexpected boost in her creativity.
I understand.
It was like once her mind wasn't constantly spinning with anxious thoughts, these untapped reserves of inspiration just opened up. Ideas flowed more easily. She found herself tackling problems with a fresh perspective. It really made that idea, a calm mind being fertile ground for wisdom and insight, come alive for her.
Still waters reflect clearly. A quiet mind allows for innovation, for seeing things anew. Clarity emerges from stillness.
So as we kind of wrap up this first part of our chat, the core message feels like anxiety doesn't have to be a life sentence.
No.
It can actually be a call to action, a prompt to reconnect with something deeper within ourselves, our true nature. And meditation in its various forms seems like it can be that guiding light, that compass, leading us back to that inner sanctuary of peace.
A gentle homecoming. A return to the inherent tranquility that resides within each and every one of us, always present beneath the surface noise.
Okay, so we've talked about the storm within, the monkey mind, and how anxiety can be this signal. Now, let's really dive into how meditation works as this anchor, this way of, well, shifting our relationship with thoughts and feelings.
The practical path.
Right. At its heart, like you said, meditation is really an exercise in attention. It makes me think of a garden, a garden that's become overgrown with weeds, those weeds being our intrusive thoughts, our worries. Can you picture that? A mental garden needing tending.
Yes. A mental landscape where clarity feels obscured perhaps by this unwanted growth.
Yeah.
Tangled.
And meditation, especially this idea of sati or mindfulness, gives us the tools to tend that garden. It's about observing those thoughts, those weeds, without getting all tangled up in them, like watching leaves float down a stream.
Right.
You don't jump in and grab them or fight them. We just notice them drifting by.
Detached observation. Witnessing. This allows their perceived power, their grip, to gradually dissipate. They become less substantial.
And it's really amazing how this ancient practice clicks with modern science, isn't it? When we're anxious, our brain can kind of flip into survival mode.
The primitive brain takes over.
Yeah, constantly scanning for threats, even imaginary ones. But mindfulness seems to help activate the prefrontal cortex, our thinking, regulating part, while calming down the amygdala, the brain's little alarm system that triggers fight or flight.
Bringing balance back to the system.
Exactly. There's even research showing that mindful breathing can actually reduce activity in the amygdala. It's pretty remarkable how ancient wisdom and neuroscience are pointing to the same thing here.
The timeless wisdom, finding resonance, finding validation in contemporary scientific understanding. The inner and outer sciences converging.
But as you stressed before, like any skill learning an instrument, a sport mindfulness takes practice, consistent effort. It's not always going to feel easy.
No. The mind is habituated to wander.
Our minds will wander, distractions will pop up, but every single time we gently, kindly guide our focus back, usually back to the breath, we're actually strengthening those attention muscles, making our minds more resilient over time. For everyone listening, just remember that each return, each gentle bringing back is a success. It's the practice itself.
Each gentle redirection of attention is a step, a quiet victory. It reinforces the pathway back to presence.
And one aspect of Buddhist meditation that feels so liberating, I guess, is the emphasis on being a non-judgmental observer.
Ah, yes. Crucial.
In our culture, we can be so hard on ourselves, right? For having negative thoughts or difficult feelings, we label them bad or wrong, and that often just seems to make them stronger, gives them more fuel.
Adding a layer of judgment creates further entanglement, further suffering.
But in Buddhism, there's this understanding that all experiences, pleasant or unpleasant, are opportunities. Opportunities for learning, for growth, for waking up.
An acceptance of the full spectrum of human experience, without the overlay of judgment, seeing things simply as they are.
That principle, non-judgmental awareness, feels so key when dealing with anxiety. It reminds me of that story about Daniel, the college student struggling with social anxiety.
Mm.
He'd avoid parties, dreaded presentations,
Mm.
constantly battling this really harsh inner critic telling him he wasn't good enough, he'd fail.
An internal dialogue steeped in negativity, creating a kind of prison of self-doubt and fear.
Totally. But then he did a mindfulness workshop and learned this idea of treating his thoughts like passing clouds.
Impermanent phenomena.
Yeah. Instead of fighting them or believing them instantly, he started just acknowledging them with a kind of gentle curiosity, like, oh, there's that inner critic again. Interesting. Just noticing.
Creating distance.
Yeah.
Observing the thought rather than being consumed by it.
And he said it was like it disarmed them. Gradually, those critical thoughts became more like background noise instead of these loud commands running his life.
That space, that distance, allows for a profound shift in perspective. It diminishes the power, the charge of those internal voices.
And over time, Daniel noticed a real change. He wasn't avoiding things as much. He was actually engaging more. And when those anxious feelings came up, because they still did sometimes, he learned to just acknowledge them, remind himself, okay, this feeling is here. This too shall pass. Instead of resisting the anxiety, he started to accept it more as just a part of being human. And paradoxically, its grip lessened.
Resistance often fuels the fire of our emotions. Acceptance, paradoxically, creates the space for them to naturally soften and subside, meeting experience with openness.
Which connects so perfectly to that Buddhist teaching of impermanence, Annika.
Annika, constant change.
Everything changes. Our thoughts, emotions, sensations, they arise, they stay for a bit, they pass away. So clinging to the pleasant ones or pushing away the unpleasant ones just creates more struggle. But when we really get their fleeting nature, it's like we're freed from their tyranny.
Recognizing the transient nature of all phenomena, including our inner states, brings a profound sense of liberation, lessening the need to grasp or resist.
And it's just wild how modern science is catching up, validating this stuff. Neuroscientists talk about neuroplasticity.
The brain's ability to change.
Right. Our brains aren't fixed. They can physically change based on our experiences and practices. And studies show regular meditators tend to have increased gray matter in brain areas linked to memory, learning, self-awareness, emotion regulation.
Tangible changes in the physical structure.
Yeah. And better connections between different brain areas, leading to better cognitive function, more resilience, even lower levels of stress hormones like cortisol. It's amazing.
The mind, a dynamic and adaptable entity, shaped profoundly by the practices we cultivate. We are active participants in shaping our own minds.
It really drives home that we can reshape our minds for better well-being. And you mentioned another beautiful practice earlier, loving kindness meditation, metta bhavana.
Metta, cultivating the heart.
I find that idea of silently repeating phrases of goodwill so powerful, starting with yourself. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease.
The foundation of self-compassion. Essential.
And then extending those wishes outward to loved ones, neutral people, even difficult people.
Embracing all beings. Recognizing our shared aspiration for happiness and freedom from suffering.
And research actually backs this up too. Studies suggest practicing metta can increase positive emotions, boost social connection, and decrease depression and anxiety. It's a powerful way to counteract negativity and isolation.
Cultivating a heart of compassion, of kindness, is a profound path. It benefits oneself and ripples outward. It dissolves the illusion of separation.
So, for someone listening now thinking, okay, this makes sense, I want to try this, but how do I actually start? How do I fit this in? What are some really practical first steps?
Begin gently, perhaps just 5 minutes a day. That is often enough to plant a seed.
5 minutes.
Find a comfortable posture. Sitting is common, but lying down is also fine. Set a timer if that helps, and simply bring your attention gently to the sensation of your breath, in and out.
Just the feeling of breathing.
Just the feeling. As you become more comfortable, maybe extend the time slowly. Also, creating a dedicated space, if possible, even just a corner of a room, can help. A quiet space that signals practice time.
Like a little sanctuary.
Precisely. And for those who find it difficult to focus initially, which is very common, guided meditations can be immensely helpful. There are many apps and resources available.
Yeah, those apps like Headspace, Calm, Insight Timer, they really do make it accessible, don't they? Offer structure.
They can provide a helpful framework, yes.
Yes.
Especially in the beginning.
And it's so crucial to remember to be patient, right? And kind to ourselves in the process.
Oh, absolutely. Kindness is paramount. There will be days when the mind feels very restless, other days calmer. That is the nature of practice. It is not about achieving perfection.
It's just about showing up, meeting yourself where you are.
Exactly. Meeting yourself with acceptance. And you also mentioned community, connecting with others, perhaps a local group or online, can offer valuable support and shared understanding.
Yeah, knowing you're not alone on the path.
The journey towards inner peace, while personal, is often made lighter when shared with fellow travelers.
So this really feels like an invitation, doesn't it, for everyone listening? An invitation to explore your relationship with anxiety and to consider that maybe? Maybe your internal response is something you can learn to influence, even when the outside world feels chaotic.
Reclaiming inner agency.
And that through meditation, you can cultivate this ability to navigate life's storms with a bit more, well, calm, grace, maybe. Thinking back to Maya and Daniel, their stories show it's possible, right? Real transformation through consistent, gentle practice.
The seeds of inner freedom reside within each of us. Latent, perhaps, but present. Waiting to be nurtured, cultivated.
And you shared that wonderful 5-minute technique earlier, the breath anchor meditation. Could you maybe walk us through that one more time, just as a really concrete tool people can take away and try?
Certainly. Find a comfortable position, seated or lying down. Allow your body to settle, release any obvious tension. Take 3 slow, slightly deeper breaths. In through the nose, perhaps, and out through the mouth. Noticing the body soften with each exhale. Then let your breath return to its natural rhythm. Gently bring your attention to the physical sensation of breathing. Where do you feel it most clearly? Perhaps the tip of the nose, the chest, or the rise and fall of the abdomen. Choose one spot.
Just pick one place.
Yes, and rest your awareness there. Feeling the subtle sensations of each inhale and each exhale. No need to change the breath, just observe it as it is.
Okay.
When your mind wanders, and it will, that is its nature, gently notice where it went, without judgment. Acknowledge the thought, perhaps label it thinking, and then gently, kindly escort your attention back to the anchor of the breath, back to the chosen spot.
Just gently bring it back.
Again and again,
Right.
patiently. After your chosen time, perhaps 5 minutes, gently widen your awareness back to your whole body. Notice how you feel, and maybe offer yourself a moment of gratitude for taking this time for practice.
That sounds so simple, yet so profound. And as you explained, just doing that, focusing on the breath, helps calm the nervous system, right? Activates that parasympathetic response.
Yes, it signals safety to the body, slows the heart rate, lowers blood pressure. It trains the brain gently to return to the present, away from anxious thoughts about past or future.
So even 5 minutes regularly can build resilience.
Indeed. A brief moment of conscious breathing, practiced consistently, can cultivate significant shifts within. It builds pathways to peace.
And you mentioned a couple of other helpful techniques too, the body scan meditation.
Ah, yes. Systematically moving attention through the body, part by part, from toes to head or vice versa.
What's the benefit of that one?
It helps to ground awareness in physical sensation, anchoring us firmly in the present moment. It also reveals areas of held tension we might not consciously notice, allowing us to breathe into them, soften them. Very helpful for reconnecting with the body's wisdom, especially before sleep, perhaps.
Reconnecting with the body, I like that. And then walking meditation, that sounds intriguing.
From the Zen tradition, often simply walking slowly, mindfully, paying attention to the sensations in the soles of the feet as they meet the earth. Perhaps coordinating breath with steps, inhaling for 2 steps, exhaling for 3, for example.
So you can meditate while moving.
Precisely. The wonderful way to integrate mindfulness into activity, to find presence and recharge even during a busy day when sitting still feels difficult. Movement infused with mindful awareness.
That's great. Different tools for different moments. And you spoke earlier about this kind of deeper revelation, seeing anxiety not just as something bad to get rid of, but maybe as a teacher.
This aligns with the Buddhist view of dukkha, of suffering, not as punishment, but as a catalyst, a prompt for awakening, for deeper understanding, for refinement of the spirit.
So the discomfort itself can point the way.
Potentially, yes, if we meet it with awareness rather than just aversion. Much of our fear, it seems, stems from this deep craving for control, for certainty, in a life that is inherently uncertain.
That hits home. We want guarantees.
We do. Meditation, however, gently teaches us how to make peace with uncertainty, to find stability within the flow rather than demanding the flow stops or changes according to our wishes. To embrace the mystery, perhaps.
And approaching anxiety with curiosity, like Daniel did, instead of automatic resistance, that shift sounds huge.
It is transformative, changing the relationship. Anxiety met with curiosity can shift from being a heavy burden to becoming a doorway a doorway into self-discovery.
How so?
It prompts us to ask, what am I truly afraid of here? What am I attached to? What expectations are being challenged? Inquiry, guided by gentle curiosity, can illuminate hidden assumptions, uncover buried strengths, reveal inner resources we didn't know we possessed. The difficulty itself becomes the teacher.
Turning towards it instead of away.
Precisely. And then you mentioned this beautiful idea of the ripple effect, interdependence.
How cultivating our own inner calm doesn't just stay within us, but actually impacts the world around us.
Yes. Inner peace radiates outward. When we are more centered, less reactive, more present, it naturally influences how we interact with others.
Yeah.
How we show up in our families, our workplaces, our communities.
It fosters more empathy, patience.
Indeed, empathy, patience, understanding, wisdom, these qualities arise more naturally from a calm, clear mind. And these are the very qualities needed for healing, both personal and collective. Our individual actions, our state of being, contributes, subtly but surely, to the overall atmosphere. A web of kindness, you could say.
Each mindful act weaves into that larger fabric.
Yes,
Yeah.
Each moment of compassion matters.
So bringing this all together, coming back to that ocean storm metaphor one last time, meditation is really the practice that allows us to gently dive beneath the surface, right? Below the choppy waves of thought and emotion.
Down to the tranquil depths.
To that place of stillness, of deep inner peace that's always there. It's not something we create, but something we uncover.
Exactly. A return. A remembering of the unshakable stillness that resides at our very core. Always present, beneath the turbulence, waiting.
So I love the challenge you put out there earlier. For everyone listening, maybe just commit to that 5-minute breath anchor meditation every day for the next week.
A gentle experiment.
Yeah. Treat it like an experiment. See what you notice. No pressure, just observation. And remember, this really is the start of a journey. A lifelong exploration, maybe. Each session, no matter how short, builds on the last, like planting a tiny seed.
A seed with immense potential.
With the potential for a huge harvest of inner peace, clarity, and resilience down the road.
May your practice unfold with ease. May it bring you increasing understanding and moments of profound peace.